Sue, welcome. Can you please tell us what you do with the family support group?
Hello, Rent. Yes, I'm the services coordinator, which means that I sit in the office, which is the old school building in Trifina, most days, and answer the phone and do all the admin for the group. I also coordinate the home help scheme and the over 60s dinners and take bookings for counselling and budgeting and anything else that comes my way, really. And I really like my job, and I've been there for 12 years.
Sounds great. Maud, will you have a go as well and tell us what you do with family support?
I am the current chairperson of the Aotea Family Support. I am a child of the 70s, so I actually have no memory of how long I've been there on the trust. That's it.
That's great. Thanks, Maud. Okay, good. Now, what we're going to do, Sue's going to explain a little bit more about how the trust works and what it does and why it exists first. And then later on, we're going to talk also about the history of the trust, how it got founded. I think it's now 23 years old. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, good. And they also give us an opportunity to talk a little bit about the whole context of our community here and where the needs arise. But we'll talk about that later. Now, Sue, tell us I've got a little pamphlet here. Was put up for the 21st anniversary of the Aotea Family Support Group, and that was dated 2009. Now, in it is a whole long list of activities. Can you just sort of explain a little bit what the core program of family support is and how you organise that?
Well, one of our core groups is the older people, and for that we coordinate the home help scheme, which puts workers into the homes of older people who can't do housework or jobs around the place on their own. That's a major part of what we do. Also, for the older people, we organised over 60s monthly dinners. And I mentioned counselling, budgeting. Excuse me. There is also, we have a youth worker, a youth services manager, I should say, that's Robin Grice. And she coordinates youth group and school holiday programs. And Kathy Scott, who's our outreach coordinator, and she organises workshops, community garden, does funding, application, looks after the community van, and a range of other things that I've probably forgotten. And unfortunately, I'll just say that now, that Robin and Kathy have resigned, which I'm not happy about, and there will be some changes coming up in the jobs, but our core services will still be continuing. So it's mainly older people and youth, I feel, but we also do workshops and seminars so that there's something for everybody, really, from the support group.
Yeah, that's good. But talk a little bit more about that. Who are the beneficiaries of the support group? How could you describe that?
Well, I'd like to think that most older people on the island get some benefit from the group. A lot of them go to the over 60s monthly dinners, which are alternate clubs every month. And that's a subsidised meal with subsidised transport, but it's mainly provided as a means for older people to get together with their peers and have a social occasion. The home help enables older people to live in their homes when they perhaps are getting to a stage where it is actually difficult for them to maintain their homes and do their chores around the place. So the older people I see is definitely a big focal point of our support. But also the youth is another major group. We try to reach the secondary school age students who are here on correspondence. That's what the group was really always aiming at. At the moment, I think we've got mostly Year 8 students at youth group, which is run by Nathan Levin and with help from Benny Bellaby down at the Trifina Hall as a base, but they usually go out and do fun things. And every holidays there's a school holiday program organised for the full 2 weeks every day for all school-age kids, both visitors to the island and locals, to enjoy and take part in, and that's very popular too. And that's the two main groups that we try to reach.
And tell me, if things on the island are always a little bit different from on the mainland, who on the mainland would be filling the same sort of roles that family support is acting out here?
It would probably be split between different groups. There's like Presbyterian support services often provide home help, and there are various groups in Auckland, on the mainland, who would provide home help. They probably don't organise anything else, like over 60s monthly dinners. There's separate budget services in Auckland. There's obviously separate individual counsellors. There's usually school holiday programs run. Auckland Council support a lot of those, so you'll find those all over the place. So there's probably not very many groups like ours that try to provide such a big range of services.
And there's actually also some other projects that you're involved in, such as the community garden, and which are not necessarily targeted as social needs, but more involving the community in other projects. Maud, do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
I actually disagree with that, Rent, because I feel that the community garden is a social need. It allows, the same as like the over 60s dinners, allows the elderly to get together. The garden allows the middle group an opportunity to gather for a purpose and a constructive purpose.
Maybe that's actually a nice thing to think of need, because need doesn't need to say that one is unable to operate and function by oneself, but one also has a need for social contact, for involvement, for engagement. Is that a good way of describing it?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, that's it's also nice to know that there, because it is that we do have pockets of community here. It's nice to know that if you're having slight issues, that the next pocket of, say, women home with children are having the same things, and the same with positive things as well as negative. Yeah.
So, talking about our community, then, where do you sort of see these points of activities, centres, groups that have that function of bringing together different parts of this community?
I think there's little niches throughout the whole island where they would be have daily needs, and that's the 70s again. Sorry.
No, of course, because I think you're also involved as an umbrella group for a whole lot of smaller community initiatives, aren't you? Can you tell me a little bit about that, because that would be sort of examples of that?
That's correct. That's like our small soccer group, and arts and crafts, quilting, all just not having the people that have got the drive to go for funding or realise where you can get funding from, and of course at our service we have that on hand. So the person that does our funding can instantly go, oh yep, I saw that. That'll be ideal for you.
And I guess with that, you're providing resources and know-how that are hard to come by in the small kind of groups that are typically here for the island.
Yes, I find the barrier is like a lot of other small communities I've lived in that 6 people will do everything.
There's I'm sort of looking at the list of umbrella groups here, and it's actually quite long, because they've in your 21st anniversary publication you mentioned Project Jonah, dance group, the correspondence school, of course. That yes. I was a correspondence school supervisor while we still had correspondence school kids down at this part of the island, and we're using the Aotearoa Family Support Group rooms for that.
Yes.
You also have, I guess, one plug we can also do is for the New Year's Day picnic coming up, which you're organising. Do you want to tell us about that?
Yes, annually on the 2nd of January, there is a New Year's picnic put on by us, which is a family fun day. It's like it used to be when we were children, with running races and a bit of something for the adults, some music, beer tent, horse racing on the beach, all that kind of stuff that should be a little bit of something to please lots of people and bring your wallets.
Of course, there's lots of shop. But talking about wallets, I mean, all these kind of services and activities, I mean, I think you've got a figure I heard mentioned today was there was 30-odd people that are volunteering, actually working part-time with home help and other activities. All that costs money. Where do the resources come from? How do you get the funding, and what else contributes to making this possible?
Well, the home help scheme is, we're contracted to Aotearoa Health, and they in turn are contracted to the Ministry of Health and Auckland District Health Board for the funding to pay for the home help works to go into people's homes. Other than that, we tend to apply for grants to keep all our projects and services going. And our main funder is the Ministry of Social Development, which is Family and Community Services and Child, Youth and Family. They give us money for youth programs, counselling, budgeting, family support, and they used to give us money for workshops, but that's now stopped. We get money from OSCAR, which is out of school care. It's part of the Ministry of Social Development. And Auckland Council both give us money for school holiday programs. We get money from lotteries and AFSG Community Trust, from United Way, from COGS, our local community board. I mentioned Auckland Council and J.R. Mackenzie Trust, and that's it to date. I think we're always looking for new funding avenues though, but we've been supported very well by all of these groups.
Now, you not only receive money, but you also give grants. I think there's a youth opportunity grant here, as you mentioned. Can you tell us about that?
Oh yes, biannually we have a grant aimed at our youth for some exciting adventure they'd like to do. The money is all donated. Our trustees, some of our trustees donate their grant they get for attending meetings. They put that into that every month. And we have private citizens that give us lump sums. And this year we awarded it to Marco Sheath, a brilliant young musician who has been raised here on Barrier, and he's going to go a long way, and hopefully with our support.
Good on you. So what other project have you got planned? I know there's a trip in the pipeline to take a group of youth or people here to Rotorua. So tell me more about that.
That's our. We try every year to send our children off on an off-island experience so that they get a little bit of action in their lives. And we're off to Rotorua. Apparently I'm going as the woman representative, but I don't have to do cross-country mountain biking or anything that involves climbing, which it sounds like the kids are going to be doing a lot of interesting exercise, but I'll be at home with the Band-Aids.
Okay, and is there any other projects that or events that are coming up that you're involved in that listeners might want to hear about? All right, okay. I'm looking for the Newsday Picnic, of course. That's always a big one, and it's quite an institution here on the island. Yes. So that's going to be happening. Before we go, I think you wanted because you mentioned that both Kathy and Robin had resigned, leaving the position of outreach coordinator and youth group coordinator open for any listeners out there. Tell us more about that.
Well, we've actually it's very exciting because all change isn't bad, and it's allowed us to create some new positions that we feel are going to be meeting the future needs of the island. And so we've actually got 3 positions in the offering. The laughter is I'm half blind. But anyway, the criteria for those positions are available in the Barrier Bulletin and on all notice boards at the present moment, and the cut-off date is the 16th. So if you're at all interested in a career opportunity that involves children, the elderly, or fundraising, check those areas out.
Great. Okay, take note of that. And is at the Barrier Bulletin. You can read more about that. And
speaking of jobs, we are always looking for caregivers, personal caregivers. We've got an increasing demand for this, for looking after our older people who have got more needs than some others. We now have a very small team of personal caregivers. These are people who are experienced or trained nurses who go into people's homes and help them with showering and dressing and things like that. We really prefer to have trained or experienced people to do this sort of work. And I'm always looking out for people with this training and experience who would be interested in some part-time or casual work. If you think it might suit you, could you please give us a ring on 465? Thank you.